Hello and welcome to the How to Film Weddings podcast. We have some exciting things that we want to get into today. Our podcast with Ryan Cota talks all about audio. It's some really good stuff. But before we get into that, we wanted to mention one more time that 3 weeks from today is the Venture Workshop. The largest gathering of wedding filmmakers in the world is happening in Denver, Colorado. VentureWorkshop.co. John's going to be there. He's going to do a live podcast. I can't make it, but he'll be there. You can talk to him. You can get to know him. John, how excited are you to be at Venture 2019?
I'm getting super pumped, to be honest. I just bought my airplane tickets, got everything lined up. So I'm going to be on Wednesday night hosting a live podcast, almost like a panel where the attendees of Venture are going to be able to come in, sit in, watch us record it, ask questions. So it's going to be very interactive. It's going to be a ton of fun. And I'm really excited to get to meet some of my heroes in person. I'm going to get to touch Matt Johnson's beard. I mean, it's going to be incredible. And I'm really bummed that you're not going to be there. Again, if you're going to be on a cruise in Alaska, if you have cell phone service, we're going to try to FaceTime you in, so you'll be a part of it too. But I did want to mention the promo code HTFW50. That'll get you $50 off a ticket if you have not gotten one yet. I know that's going to expire soon, and they're closing off ticket sales. So jump over to ventureworkshop.co and use that promo code, and I'll see you there.
Yeah. So now we're just going to go ahead and jump right into our episode with Ryan Cota.
Yeah, I assume when you answer questions, you're going to get really audio geeky, which is great. But I think a lot of people are going to be like, wait, what is that? What did he say? So we'll pay attention to that stuff and tell it to me like I'm a kindergartner.
Hello and welcome to the How to Film Weddings podcast. Today I'm joined by none other than Nick Miller.
Hey!
We just got through talking with Ryan Cota, and this guy is basically like Yoda when it comes to audio and sound. We talked to him and picked his brain about just little tips that we can do on the wedding day to make it sound better. We talk about just effects that we can do in post, what kind of microphones to use, things to be thinking about on the wedding day. Nick, I don't know about you, but my mind is still kind of spinning from all of the information.
Yeah, tons of stuff, lots of stuff to take in. So you're definitely going to want to check this out. Take some notes or...
get out that pen and paper, definitely, because there's a lot of good stuff in there. You might want to listen to this one twice. So let's just jump right on into the episode with Ryan Cota. All right, so thank you so much, Ryan, for being on the show. Why don't you take a second, say hello, introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you and how you got your start in audio.
Sure. Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me on the show. I love doing this kind of stuff, talking about the profession and everything. And so I'm Ryan Cota, and I am a sound engineer. I got into sound and that as that's going to be what I'm going to do. When I was 17, I moved to LA to be an actor, realized, wow, I need a job. I'm broke, and got a job at a premier music studio, just right place at the right time. I became an intern. I graduated up the steps from being an intern to recordist to editor to mixer, etc. And it was a music studio. So I got my start and my chops with music. The who's who of mixing and music production came in to use the studio. That's awesome. Always needed there needed to be a studio rat at each session who knew, great, that hole goes to that hole. How do I get into that piece of equipment and the patch bay and what pieces of gear were working and what weren't? And they just needed a technician there. And also, I would also run Pro Tools, which is the program that is used. It's kind of like for lack of a better term, it's like a word processor for audio. Sure. You could cut it up, you could do all sorts of stuff, and that's the industry standard.
So you basically got to cut your teeth in all of these crazy, you were there amongst all these pros, learning all things audio. That's cool. And so that took you to kind of falling in love with audio. Mm-hmm. What are you doing? What are you into today? What does your world look like when it comes to working with audio today?
So while I was down there, I worked there for about 14 years. And while I was down there, they opened it up to ADR, automated dialogue replacement, which is when the actor comes back in and re-records his line because there's a noisy set or something non-optimum happened to the set sound that they couldn't use in the film. And that's where I got introduced into the world of film and TV and dialogue, which is that's my forte. That's mainly what I do is I take dialogue that's recorded for film and TV on set. I take every single microphone that was used. Everybody's got a lav. Everybody's also being recorded through a boom mic, and not everything can play at the same time. You'll get issues with, it'll sound weird. Anyway, so taking those, and that's how I got into that. And then carrying over to the wedding world, I became a photographer in 2009. And I was doing that for a while, and then I got introduced into filming, and a friend of mine who was director of photography for she did some major films and music videos and things like that, and she would bring me out and use me as like a second or third cameraman for that sort of thing. So that's where the two worlds combined, where I was a wedding photographer, I knew video, and then
that's great.
Boom, there's this whole world that I didn't know of until about 2 or 3 years ago when I really looked at who are these people who show up on the day and they're doing video, they're not doing photo. And I got interested in that. And then one day I moved back up to Northern California because my wife and I had a child, and I retreated to the north for babysitting with parents and that sort of thing. So we left LA, came back up in 2016, and I started immediately working with a local photographer who had a really good, strong business running for about 14 years. And I said, "Hey, do you need a second photographer?" And she said, "Yeah, great. Let's show me your stuff. Let's shoot." And so I became her second for about 2 years, until one day we were at a wedding, and we had a run-in with someone who wasn't like for whatever reason, they took the bride and groom at dinner and didn't tell us and went and did their romantics. And they came back and we said, "Hey, are you ready to go do your romantics with photos?" And they said, "We just did that, didn't we?" And so it was a whole thing. And I thought to myself on the way back, I asked her, we carpooled, and on the way back, I was like, "Hey, I know a little bit about video and I know audio for video. Why don't I just become the videographer for your company?" And she was like, "I've been looking for someone to do that for years," because she's had to churn people away. People call her and say, "Hey, are you a one-stop shop? Do you do photo and video?"
You know, you're talking about, you kind of you started with the audio stuff, you got into photography, you fell into video, and then you're like, hey, 50% of, wedding videos and video should be the audio, should be the sound, should be that kind of stuff. And so you automatically have a leg up on people, because I would say that audio engineering, any audio stuff is probably at the back end whenever people are learning how to do this, right? They learn how to shoot, and then maybe they buy lights, and all that kind of stuff. So let's just kind of jump in and talk about that. Obviously, the best thing that you can do to get good audio on a wedding day is to just start capturing good audio to begin with, right? So why don't you step in real quick and just kind of give us your recommendations on, maybe lav mics and recorders, what you use, and then any kind of field recorders, just kind of real quick, why, which ones you use, which ones you prefer, and why maybe it is that you have chosen those ones over others.
Okay, so just to go down my gear list real quick, I have a DR70D recorder, which is a 4-channel, records to SD card, and it's super reliable. It's never broken down on me, and it's made by Tascam. And I got specifically 4 channels to be able to record multiple sources at once that are separate to each other. One of the
smart.
main I'm a stickler for getting the best quality out of the recording to begin with, because then you're not spending time later on. It's like
Absolutely.
it's like making a salad. You get the best organic ingredients possible. You're going to have
Salad?
a better salad. If you go and buy store-bought frozen vegetables, but in your salad, it's not going to be as good. So that, and the reason why is many times there's been multiple sources of sound. There's the groom is mic'd, the officiant is mic'd, obviously. There's a random microphone to the left that somebody's going to come up and read a poem or something during the ceremony, or there's a cello player that has another mic that the DJs put out. And the biggest pitfall I see when people record, I'm coming off the speaker and that's good enough, right? Well, you're going downstream of whatever the DJ is doing. If you don't tap off of the actual wireless receiver or get a split or get something before it gets to the DJ's board, you are at the mercy of everything that DJ is going to do. And you're meeting him for the first time that day, unless you have worked in an area and you know DJs really well. But I've been burned with that microphone that's set out for somebody to read a poem. That DJ accidentally left it up for the whole ceremony. So you're getting all that noise from mic into your recording where you don't need or want that, but it's now mixed because you get whatever is sent to the speaker, and whatever the audience is hearing, you're getting through that speaker.
Yeah.
So that's why I have that piece of gear, just a multi-channel XLR. It's all the inputs are XLR. They're really good mic preamps that I've found. And back to that, the split. If it's a wireless mic, somewhere it's being received in his little rack or wherever the DJ is using. And more often than not, you look at whatever gear he has, it's normally a one rack unit, one RU, a Shure mic receiver with a Shure wireless mic. There's other brands, etc., but each one of those Shure professional receivers has an auxiliary output on the back. That's a TRS output. It says unbalanced, and I literally I have all the adapters I need for any type of feed that I could possibly get from a DJ, everything from TRS to XLR to RCA to all types of connectors to be able to think on my feet on the day. But that's the first place I look after meeting the DJ and becoming good friends with him, because he is your friend that day. You do not want to do anything that will upset him or try to.
Real quick. I have a question about that. Plugging right into the receiver. I have heard, talking to some DJs or whatever, that if certain things that you do, if you unplug, it'll blow up their system, or, they kind of have. So is that totally safe? Like if you plug into that auxiliary on the back of the receiver, and then whenever you're done for the night and you need to leave, can you just walk up and unplug it and you're good to go? Or does he have to do something?
I have never had that problem. It's usually a buffered output, which means you can do whatever you want to that output and it's going to be fine. But you're right. Every single time you do anything with cables, even off the speaker, there is basically there. I have him turn the system down, mute it, and then boom, plug in your things, have them bring it back up. Some of them say, "Oh my God, it's not going to work if you plug into that hole, it's not going to give me the signal. It'll cut it out or something." And that's not true. It's an auxiliary output that literally can be plugged into your recorder, and you get an isolated only that microphone output of the receiver.
Ask you just on that front, you have audio knowledge. I think a lot of people come up to a DJ and they're a little bit hesitant. what do you say to the DJ when you walk up to him? Like, obviously you don't want to come across to him that you know more than him, because you do know more than him or her. So what do you say to like become friends with them? What's some practical things that people can be looking at? I mean, do you walk straight in and walk right to him and say, I need to plug in? Do you make a relationship with him first? What kinds of things do you do to kind of buddy up with the DJ first? What do you say?
So first and foremost, he is important. You grant him the importance of, great, he is the audio IC in charge, whatever you want to call it, for the night, because he is in charge of, he's the one that is responsible for the PA system that everybody will hear,
Right.
all mics, they'll hear the music, et cetera, et cetera. Really grant him the importance. Don't go up and never go up and start plugging in and doing things with his gear without, how would we feel if that would happen to our cameras or whatever?
Exactly.
Oh, heck no.
I just really politely go up, greet him with a really strong handshake, tell him I'm so happy you're here and it's great to see someone like you is going to be running the day. And I just had a few questions for you on how, my responsibility is I'm supposed to capture the highest quality audio for this event, that I have a set way of doing things that I've already gone over with the bride and she's okay with it. And you could name drop the bride all you want. And cause she's then above him in the hierarchy of the events of the day. And, I have not had any DJ say, nope, can't do it.
Yeah. Most of them are really nice if you'll just
most of them are
take
great,
a second. Yeah.
And you got to be super careful because they'll start cringing, because if you need to get back in there to get that aux out of the receiver and he's got it all perfectly mounted in his little rack that he's got on wheels and he has the back closed up and he's got it perfectly, all the cables perfectly ran and, set up in there. Be very ginger. You can even ask him, can you take my TRS?
That's a good point.
And plug it in there, please. It's that
Is
output.
real quick. Is TRS, is that quarter inch?
Yes.
Okay. You keep saying,
Yes.
I've never heard that before.
Tip, ring, sleeve.
Okay.
Those are the three connections on.
He knows
that.
too much for his own good,
Yeah,
Nick.
yeah.
He's so smart.
So then you have your field recorder and it has 4 channels. And for those of you that might, kind of be curious about that, the channels would be is you can record 4 different sources with cables, XLRs into those. So you're actually recording, like, this microphone is its own thing. And then this microphone to the right is its other thing. So then you have those by themselves, but you can put them together. So
Exactly.
So with that, let's say, they have 2 microphones, 2 wire, they have a Shure system that can do 2. So then do you have 2 quarter-inch cables that you can plug into both of those receivers, so then you can plug into, 2 channels on your recorder? Or is it not that way?
It's tricky. You got to think on your feet. You got to know, like, there was a Shure receiver last year that it had 2 channels, 2 different mics. They were both being used at the same time. And the only output off the back, the auxiliary output, which was in the same spot as it usually is, it was a combination of both mics.
Okay.
So it defeats the purpose. There was only one output and that was it. And I forget which model. I think I took a photo and put it onto the groups and said, guys, look out for this. It's, if you run into this is what you need to do. And I think I ended up, since I didn't have one of those transformer splits, I just took a Y cable off the back of the actual XLR main outputs of the receiver, split them, went directly into my recorder, and then it went to his DJ board. And he was really worried about it. And I'm like, I've done this a million times. It's going to be great. And it was great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Some people will say, oh, you got to use a transformer if you're coming off of the same feed that he's going to go to his mix board. The thing you got to look out for is you can't send upstream. You can't send from your recorder the phantom power to the wireless receiver. no phantom power is needed in that unit because it's just receiving that wireless mic, and then boom, it just goes out to, and it's still a pretty low level to the mix board, and the mix board is using its preamp. You're gonna use your preamp on your recorder, and it's there may be some abnormalities that happen when you try to do that send phantom power. So you got to just make sure that's off.
Yeah, I think I saw somewhere in a group, like for your I have an H4n, and someone said, always have that off, because it can, if you have phantom power on, it can at least like put a little noise or something in there. Like if you're recording something and you don't need it and phantom power's on, it will add something in there that you don't want. So turn that off.
Yeah, or it'll pop when you go to unplug it and
So,
things like that.
I know what it is, but what is phantom power? What are you guys talking about?
Okay, so types of microphones. The two most common types of microphones are dynamic, which is like this one I'm talking on, you're talking on, and you're talking on. All three of us are on a dynamic microphone, and a dynamic microphone does not take phantom power. It's not powered. A condenser mic uses phantom power, which powers components inside the mic and makes it possible for it to receive.
That's good. Okay. Yeah.
So then that makes it more sensitive. It's just a type of microphone that won't transmit signal without having phantom power.
Without it being plugged in, basically.
Yeah, that's basically. I mean, if it's being plugged in, there's a couple more rules that go along with it. And it's like you don't want to try to be sending that power up towards the board
when you don't
need it. It's going to cause issues. Right. Yeah, when you don't need it. Yeah.
Okay, so you said that you use the Tascam DR770. Is that right?
70D.
D. Okay.
DR70D. I have a DR40, which is my backup, and literally the feed I get from, I also take a feed from the speaker just as a total backup redundant.
Might as well, yeah.
I take it from the speaker, I split it. One goes to the DR70D if I have another another input. If there's not as many microphones, usually 9 times out of 10, there's 2 microphones that I'm recording that I get 2 separate feeds from. Then third input is for the backup speaker output, or from the board, or whatever's convenient. And then the DR40 takes that as a backup. Then I've got 2 DR10Ls, which is just the stock microphone that came with it. I've got a white one and a black one. The white one's for brides, and I didn't realize that they sell the white microphone separately.
Yeah, I got that one. I think they actually discontinued the white.
The whole thing white because I was thinking, oh, good, it needs to blend in. You don't need to. No. You could use your black one with just the white mic, because that's all you're going to see. If it's going to be concealed anyway. So the only thing you don't want to see is the microphone and the cable. So I've got 2 of those. I've got a Rode Link, which I use for corporate stuff, and that's super simple to use because you literally just turn it on and it links itself. You don't need to worry about frequencies and I think it's Wi-Fi, like 2.4 gigahertz, whatever.
Sure.
So you're not battling with, oh no, I'm in LA and there's a bunch of TV stations that are going to cause interference, etc. And it's worked great for me, but I don't normally, I have it as like a total backup for weddings in case something happens with the DR10 or something. Because in terms of lav mics and using them on the people in the ceremony, etc., using the DR10 is, in my experience, a lot easier and a lot less worry about. It's one less thing to worry about.
So you bring with you 2 field recorders every day, and those are the big recording units. So one is a 4-channel one and one is a 2-channel one. And then you have 2, the DR10L, just the little lapel mics, and then that's on the groom or the officiant or groom and bride or however you do that. And then you have the Rode Link system as a backup that you primarily use for, corporate stuff, but you bring that on a wedding day just in case you need something else. So that's that sounds pretty similar. I have one H4n Zune. I have a Roland RO5 little recorder, and then I think I actually have 5 DR10Ls now. I've just kind of collected them over the years.
Awesome.
So that's what I'm rocking. So now, obviously, we've kind of talked about is, recording good audio to begin with is going to help you in the post process. Hopefully you guys heard how Ryan hooks into the back of the receiver of the wireless microphone, at the toast and that stuff. I'm sure Ryan would love to, if you ask any questions in our Facebook group, just tag him in it. I'm sure he'd help you out if you have any questions with that.
Yeah, especially if you want to get like geeky.
Right.
I think that he likes that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
let's go ahead and jump over to kind of the post-production side of things. So I wanted to ask you, and I'm sure John and I are probably real big culprits of doing this. Whenever you watch someone's film or you listen to it, what do you say are, the 2 or 3, major problems or mistakes or things that people really need to improve on, just kind of the normal casual person whenever they create a wedding film? What are those 2 or 3 things that you think that people should work on to improve?
It's not that they're horrible. It's not that they're wrong. It's not that they're, it's literally minutia. It's very, how do I say it?
People need to make, maybe they're going, 90% of the way there and they need that extra 10% to just make it sound that much better. That kind of thing. Yeah.
Like the main thing I hear is volume rides that are very pronounced.
What does that mean?
Like you put 2 breakpoints and you have your level of music when nobody's talking, and then you have a level that you've set 20 dB lower when there's a speech or there's something happening with dialogue, and it just
cuts real fast. And you say ride the faders, which means like slowly bring those up or down.
Ride the fader. Yeah. Learn how, and this is really geeky stuff. Like,
bring it.
I'm sure nobody in the history of wedding films has had a point where, hey, my music goes down really fast there. Can you make it smoother? Like it works, and brides love it, and
it's
the
just
visuals
those subtle things. Yeah,
are amazing.
So
it's just really subtle to really make it into a professional. Wow, that's a film. And
you don't see it, but you feel it. It seems like
right. And here's a question with riding the faders. Okay, do you have a let's say you have your music and you want it to peak at -4 dB, like that's as loud as you want your music to get, and then at the low point when people are talking, you want it, let's say -20. So it needs to go down, 16 dBs, to get there to that point. So do you have kind of a hard and fast rule on how long you should, like, are you saying, okay, if I'm going to go from -4 to -20, that needs to be over a 20-second period? Or like, do you kind of have a rule like that? Or
there's no rules. It's a feeling.
You just got to listen to it. Yeah.
How I structure, I don't know if anybody else does this in the whole world. What I do when I get home and I'm ready to edit a wedding film that I did, I construct the entire thing audio first. I find my song, I put that song out. Is it 7 minutes, exactly how long I want? Or is it, I edit it, and luckily now with Soundstripe having stems, that makes my job a lot easier to be able to extend and shorten music cues into the length that I want, whether it's 7, 8, 9, or 12 minutes. So you get your music how long you want it, and you have the crescendos of that music, and you have those the peaks and valleys.
Yeah, the ups. Yeah,
if you want to call it that.
Sure.
You have the section, and normally what I do is I put a heartfelt speech. I cut that soundbite that I want from the father of the bride or mother of the groom or whoever it is, put it in there, put their last words exactly on where that music ramps up to create that emotional impact. Boom, you've got that natural build of the music coming back in after the speech. Then in the intro, I've got the efficient or whoever. Some people say it's cliche, but I create with dialogue and music. That's the skeleton of the soundtrack. Then I export that as a temp mix, export that into Final Cut Pro. Then I put all the visuals. I sync up the speeches, and then I put all the B-roll and all the slow motion gimbal walking and things like that. And then boom, it's I don't know if anybody else does that, but that allows me
similar.
to
not that geeky, but I'm similar.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Because you build in, you don't, it's hard for me. I don't know if anybody else can do it, but I sure can't. I can't make a film, then try to edit the music to be exactly on time or on beat with what people are saying. And at the end of their speech, and boom, it crescendos and it's this emotional impact, et cetera, et cetera. So that, to answer your question about how long it needs to take or how long the fader move should be, I kind of build that in to begin with, so it's easier for me. I don't really think about it.
That's good.
And it goes into that valley, so to speak, and the person's talking, and then boom, it comes out of that valley into the crescendo, and I just bring up that fader. So and it's a feeling thing,
right.
And that's, for lack of a better word, or for lack of a better way of explaining it, that's how I work. And I set the thing I set levels with is dialogue. Dialogue is king. That's the meaningful piece of what you're communicating in your film, at least for me, because I do all the cliches. I do the notes. I do the
that's
vows. I do
that's what they
all
want.
that stuff.
So
anyway.
So then another thing that it took me a while before I kind of really started to try and figure out how to do this, but would be, to normalize, a speech. Because, whenever anyone speaks, they're going to talk really loud and then they're going to talk really soft and, kind of go back and forth. But whenever you're editing, you still want that to all be about the same volume level, correct? So, how important is, normalizing your audio? Are you seeing a lot of people not doing that?
Yes and no. The number one tool for that is using a compressor or a limiter, and a compressor or limiter is literally, you set a threshold and anything above that will be compressed or limited. And the difference between a compressor and a limiter is anything above 10-to-1 ratio, because it's a lot steeper of a ratio when something goes above the threshold. And a compressor is lower than that. It's like 3-to-1, 4-to-1, 5-to-1. There's a gradual threshold hitting the signal when it gets above that. So using that, you can get those high parts lower, you can get the low parts higher.
So you writing the faders, having your music come in and come out smoothly and not like super abruptly. Do that, either trying to limit them or compress them. However, that'll make it sound better. So what are 2 or 3 effects that you're adding in post that you would recommend people play with to get their audio to sound better?
So first and foremost, EQ. And I think any editing program has EQ. It has some sort of tool that you can do to shift frequencies. That's all it's doing, is you're emphasizing the high end as opposed to the low end. You can take out frequencies that are annoying and what have you. And sometimes I hear a mix and that's just the raw. Nothing's been done to the lav mic that's been put under the coat or under the tie, and it sounds muffled. bringing up that high end will unmuffle it, taking out a bit of 500, 600, 800 even, depends on the voice, takes out that boxiness. You'll hear that term as well when people are talking about EQing voices. And it'll just make it sound more pleasant and first and foremost, more intelligible. Dialogue is king. You got to make sure every word is, you can hear it pronounced. You can understand it.
So real quick, with the EQ. So it's kind of like EQ is, kind of like in color, but with audio. So, in color correction, we have, shadows, midtones, and highlights. So EQ, when you pull up your EQ thing on your computer, the numbers to the left are going to be your bass, your shadows, right? The stuff in the middle is going to be your midpoints and your midtones. And I believe that that's where most people's natural voices is in the mid area. Maybe
it's all over.
Okay.
Yeah.
Depends. I know my voice is higher, so I'm probably more like mid to high rather than other people. And then
you and me both.
And then to the right side. And then to the right side is the higher frequencies. So are you totally case by case with messing with those, or is there some shape that you're trying to build? And are you using, I know in Audition, and I think Premiere has just kind of stock, it has 10, 20, and 30 band for EQ. So which one are you kind of going in with? Or are you, again, is there a specific shape, or are you just kind of taking each one as it is and going individually?
Always it's case by case.
Okay.
The mic could have been outside of his shirt rather than the next time it's inside. You just literally have to listen to it going in with what is the ideal sound? What should it sound like? It should sound like the person. Mm-hmm. It should sound like the bride. It should sound like the efficient talking. And if it's muffled, bring up those highs. If it's not, leave them where they are. It's and you can definitely, along with over compressing or over limiting, it's a definite, you can go too far. You can definitely trying to make it better, you could totally, like with color correction.
Sure.
Totally ruin it. Yeah.
Like I do. I'm not the best color corrector out there. You just got to listen to it and have in your mind, what should it sound like? What does a voice sound like?
That's a good point. For sure.
Yeah, and that's the easiest way to put it. And it takes experience. It takes you just
got to practice it. You
got to
listen
time
and listen.
Yeah.
So they have the EQ. You have
compressors are good to
compressor
or just compressor or volume automation of bringing up the lows where he's talking soft and then bringing him down. And I do it to the syllable. Like when I'm mixing a speech and there's only one syllable that just goes off the chart, I'm doing volume rides on.
Yeah, that's like intense.
Down to minutia. Yeah. And I'm sure nobody has time to do that. I'm just super quick at it, so I do it naturally.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll get to a point where you're looking at it. I'm to a point where I can read waveform. Like I could tell you what word is what, and that's an S, that's a T, that's a K.
That's
and
awesome. It's like the Matrix.
You'll be able to see that's going to be a problem before even
right.
Before you even listen to it, you go, that's going to be a problem, or that's a distortion, that's a blah, and you just get so quick at it that it becomes second nature.
Okay.
And that's mixing. That's
so
making it sound pleasant for the eventual listener.
So so we have limiters, compressors would be one thing that you would suggest at least looking into, maybe messing around with those to figure out what's going to sound the best. EQ, adding EQ to everything. I think another big problem that a lot of people maybe over push is going to be, noise reduction.
Yes.
What do you recommend, or how to maybe still remove noise but still keep those natural voice stuff, those tones in there? What do you suggest for that?
So, great. So there's awesome software out there. First and foremost, I use Isotope RX, and the full, like, you got to get the full thing, not the elements or whatever it's called, like the
Pay for the big boy.
3 or 4. Pay for the big boy, and not a lot of people are going to want to do that because I'm fortunate that I use it for both my editing feature films and TV. I use it for both that and the weddings, and it has great spectral view that you can see the noise on the bottom of the voice and just select under the voice and delete. There's dialogue isolate, which only comes with the full version, and that's a lifesaver. That's my go-to noise reducer. When there's a baby crying in the background, when there's plates clinking, when there's just general noise, it literally knows what to look for, what's a voice, what's not, and it isolates that, and I get a great 7, 8, sometimes 12 dB of reduction without what is commonly called space monkeys or artifacts, where it just sounds jumbled. If you overdo noise reduction, broadband noise reduction, it just turns into this filthy, dirty, high-end digital
filthy
noise.
and dirty.
Yeah, or you sound underwater, like that's another way it's described. It doesn't add any of that to a degree. You can overdo it as with anything, but I've gotten the most. I could suck out more ambient noise with that, I feel, in my experience, than any other plugin out there. But there's so many things out there.
Yeah, I was going to ask because, so like a lot of people that are listening, I mean, I think this program that you're talking about is awesome. I'm like trying to save to buy it because it's over $1,000, I believe. So for and so it's expensive. So if I'm, in my first couple of years, like I use Audition and I'll use the noise reduction in that. I know a lot of people use the Isotope program, but I guess I think the question that I'm asking, especially from what I'm doing, like I'm maybe, I have a lapel from the ceremony and there's an air conditioner in the background that's just kind of a small little hum in the background, but that's, I know that that's matching a little bit of maybe some of the frequency of the minister's voice. What tips and tricks, if I was using something simple, would you, like, for somebody that doesn't have the ability to use one of these, fancier programs, what would they be like kind of looking for to kind of pull that out, but not pull out like the minister's audio? Or is there any tricks? I mean, I know that less is more. So do you just like slowly pull little bits? And
I was just going to say that.
Okay.
Less is more.
Yeah.
You hear that a lot. And unless it's a huge problem with hum, or you had your DR10 crash and you're using your mic that's on top of the camera because that's all you have, unless you have issues with that, a good recording of a microphone like this that are being handheld isn't going to require too much.
Sure.
And when you put it with music, you'll be surprised at how much
it covers it. Yeah.
It covers it. And if you're sucking out all the ambience of that mic, it'll pendulum swing. It'll sound a bit unnatural in the sense that there's nothing going on. I've seen that too, where, wow, it's super
metally or like
isolated.
Yeah.
Well, just by itself. And the third thing I would say, or fourth thing now, is adding a bit of reverb, adding a bit of that liveness to the voice, because obviously these things take place in big halls or big auditoriums or the restaurant or the auditorium
Sure.
hall thing at a golf country club, there is a bit of echo there that these mics, the mics that are being used, they're super dead. You don't get that. They're very, very directional. They don't pick up
So
sound.
you're adding some of that back in there to make it
adding
feel
that
like you're back in that
in.
room. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
cool.
to make it sound like, great, he's in a hall. He's in a, not too much, so it sounds like a 90s ballad, but you're adding it there so that there's some sort of splash, some sort of echo that it sounds natural instead of a super dead mic like this one.
Yeah.
The other thing I do sometimes is when I'm doing speeches or even in the ceremony, this is really important. I set up the camera not only for the best angle of center aisle and getting that super long throw, super close up of the three people, the bride, groom, and officiant. And I use that recording. There's a stereo mic on pretty much all cameras. I use that for the crowd rather than pulling it all from the microphone that's super directional at the front of the with the officiant, like to get that impact of like, wow, there were a lot of people there, or that natural, to make it sound like a natural broadcast event. As well as using it for the big applause at the end for the big kiss. And the other thing I do is I sneakily add in from a library crowd noise.
Sure. Yeah.
I do that
to
too.
mix in with that.
Yeah, I do that as well.
And I'm sure a lot. Yeah. Great.
But that's a
So-
good tip because I think I've done it for so long. It's just worth noting, like to download a high quality indoor clap track or outdoor clap track. There's several companies that you can just for $4 or $5 get like audio or laughter or like just that kind of crowd noise to kind of subtly lay in there, or birds chirping, those kinds of things. So
totally. Yeah.
definitely use those.
I'm into all that stuff.
Yeah.
Beginnings of, if you're showing the establishing shots of the country club or the villa in Italy or the waves crashing on the beach,
Add that
like
sound in.
definitely that adds a whole other. I see a lot of great examples of that. People they're getting so good at that.
Totally.
Adding in that ambient noise and the sounds and using that with those really quick edits of things that are happening, and you get all those sounds, and it almost becomes like it almost synchronizes with the music. It's really awesome.
I think we're going to ask, we asked in
yeah.
our Facebook group some questions. So
Yeah, I was going to say, you're quite famous in our Facebook group. We posted, and within minutes, we had several questions. The first one, and just a reminder, if you're not in our Facebook group, just search How to Film Weddings on Facebook. We do a lot of fun things in there. We just did a live Q&A a couple days back. I mean, it's a lot of fun. Join in on the fun, and it's great. You can, troll each other, ask each other questions. So the first question comes from Brandon Rice. He says, "Why is Ryan so cool?" Go ahead. And then Sky London jumped in and said, because of the blurry background in his profile pic. So, we've answered a couple of these. McCall Ryan said, what do you use during the wedding day? Any tips? Jonathan Snyder says, why are you such a rebel? Chris Wheeler's asking, why is everyone in the wedding industry using the Countryman B3 instead of Santon COS 11D? They sound so much better. Do you know anything about those things? Do you want to geek out about that, or do you want to do that in the group?
That might be a price thing.
Okay, that's probably what I thought.
The COS 11 has it's more around, I want to say 800, 900. Don't quote me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I
However,
thought too, the price.
That, when I was doing ADR and I was recording everybody from movie sets to come back in, that was what we purchased, because that's what most not weddings, film sets are using. They're using the COS 11.
Yeah.
And that's what we use to match. That's where I think
Chris, you need to DM him because everybody else is probably like, what?
Yeah, I do.
So-
I do remember that David from Forestry Films. He said that's what he has is the Sanken COS 11D, and his comment was
They're both great.
Yeah, his comment was
Yeah.
that lapel mic sounds the most like a shotgun mic of any lapel mic I've ever listened to. So that's
Yeah.
why he said.
True.
He liked
So
it,
if you have that dough, do it.
Yeah.
Nick, you wanted to ask any more questions? Or
I will say they're both omnidirectional, meaning both of those microphones will pick up
everything around
everything
them.
around it.
Yeah.
I would err on the side of possibly recommending there's a Shure, I think it's the 184. There's a 184 and then there's a 185. One of them is a hypercardioid. 184, I believe, is the one. And it's super directional. So it's when you have it on someone's lapel or pointed at his mouth, you're going to get mostly just his voice and not
Okay.
the ambience around him.
So look up that
that's-
one. Shure 184 or 185 lapel mic.
Lav mic.
Lav
And
that
just message
is-
Ryan a bunch in these groups. He loves it. So ask him questions. He's got links to his gear and all that good stuff. Nick, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I don't got anything.
Oh, I thought you
else.
had a question.
No,
Well,
no.
I mean, I think a couple of things just as we wrap up because we're running out of time here. I made a note just to say, like, I know that this stuff can be overwhelming.
Yes.
Practice these things, test them out. Just trying to get familiar. Just by doing a little bit of this audio stuff, you're going to stand out from the crowd. You can go super geeky, but really you just want to take away noises that don't need to be there, keep it natural sounding, try to capture it as good as possible when it's happening, make good relationships with the audio technicians that are there at the day, try to be as close to the source as possible, and just continue in these groups to ask questions. If you're posting your audio, grab a buddy and say, hey, can you listen to this? Does it sound good? Is it too much sound effects? But just the main thing that I've been doing, and I'm not perfect at this and I've been doing it for a long time, is just continue to try to learn, since talking, with Ryan over the past few months, it's like, okay, I'm going in and messing with EQ a little bit more and my films just sound better, but no bride ever has noticed or said that doesn't sound better, and so it's more for me, but I want to provide that best, that best product for the bride, and it will make you stand out. It's an intangible that they might not notice, but they're just like, there's something that just feels more cinematic about that. And I think that's the overall point that Ryan is kind of getting at today.
Yeah.
Before we jump off here, Ryan, where can people find you and get in touch with you?
Okay. To get in touch with me directly, just find me on either any of the Facebook groups. I believe I'm a part of each one of them and actively commenting and helping. One of the things I like to do most is just be helpful and answer and talk to people. And there's that. And it's rycota85@gmail.com.
Dropping the Gmail account. I love that.
Rycota85. Yeah. And as far as website,
Yeah, where can they see your work?
if someone wants to see my work, I don't know.
We want to listen to we want to listen to your work. Is what we want to do.
Yeah. Listen, not look. Megan Lucy, that is who I work for. She's
Okay.
awesome. She's been in the business for years, and she recently brought me on as the main videographer for her. MeganLucy.com, and it's MEAGAN.
Perfect.
Lucy, LUCY.com. And there's a section that says video, and there's a few trailers, there's a few features, and a reel of just all the slow-mo gimbal walking that we did.
Yes.
Anyway, I
perfect.
love it. I have so much to learn, which I hope I can trade with people. I'll teach you audio if you teach me color or
and that's what it's all about.
how to film.
Yeah,
And
that's one of the big reasons why we're doing this is we want to, we have knowledge, but we definitely don't know everything, and we want to share what we know, but we also want, if you know something, obviously you do with audio, we want that help for us to improve us as well. So that's that really falls in line with what John and I are trying to do here.
And awesome. And I'm constantly getting messages of, can you help me fix this? I unfortunately screwed up the audio on my film. Can you help me restore it? And I've done that for multiple people.
That's cool.
And I love doing that. I don't know if it's something that's important enough to maybe start a service for people who,
I would.
in dire circumstances,
Yeah.
like,
Well, they've got your email address too, so they can email you and you can say, hey, this is going to take a lot of time. If you want to give me some money, I'd help you out, or this is what, give them some advice. So, I mean, there's a million things, especially with the audio and all of the knowledge that you have. I mean, I appreciate you so much for coming on.
Thank you
for
so
giving
much.
us an
My
hour
pleasure.
of your time. I
can
know the
I
listeners
put a few more
appreciate it.
nuggets out there?
Yeah, go right
Do we
for
have
it.
time?
We have about 1 to 2 more minutes here, so yeah.
Okay, good. First thing you do when you walk in to do the bride first look with the bridesmaids first look and things, turn off that Bluetooth speaker, because you're going to want that audio, the reactions, the laughter, the ambience. I've heard a lot of Justin Timberlake being played through the film over the music because they didn't shut off, and even the ring bearer playing his Xbox in the other room, shut
just
off all
listen
sound
real quick. Yeah,
Yeah,
to a
that's
point,
good.
just really quick.
That's good.
Just walk in there, listen. Is there anything I need to shut off or ask to shut off? On a windy day, get the DJ to use his dynamic mic, his or her dynamic mic,
instead of putting a mic on the
handheld,
on the
instead of the
efficient.
lav, because it's on a super
really,
windy
really
day.
good one. Yeah.
Unless you have one of those huge furry windscreens, which is great to have. Sometimes, like this one wedding, it was blustering at 25 miles per hour.
Right.
The DJ was sound checking the efficient with a lav mic that had no protection at all, not even the little dust foam thing, like dust guard. It didn't even have that. It was just the bare microphone.
Yeah.
And I walked up to him and I said, "Is that the mic you're using?" And he said, "Yeah, I've got it rolled off at like 500 hertz or something." That's just blasphemous in the live sound community, which is where I also come from. I've done live sound for years, and I coaxed him into, can we use the handheld mic? It's better for wind rejection. It'll help me mix and help the end product of the video. And he agreed. At first he was a little, I always do the lav, but then I talked him into, no, this is better for both the live audience. They'll be able to hear them better without all the wind. Yeah. And then
that's really
for the
good.
Post-production. So
love it.
that's just another little.
Yeah, I've never even thought to do that. I mean, I just usually I think the thing is most people just take what they get instead of just thinking for a second, like maybe there's another solution. So great extra additional bonus nuggets.
Yeah.
So there's a million things we could talk about. I know that you could go so much deeper on these topics. So my recommendation is, if you want to know more from Ryan, do what he said. Email him, tag him in the Facebook posts and our groups. I really do thank you so much for being on today. There's so much more we could talk about. If you're listening to this podcast on iTunes or Stitcher, be sure to rate, review. If you're watching on YouTube, give us a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe. Thank you so much, Ryan, for being here. And until next time, we'll see you.
See ya.